Tucker Carlson has been in the media since the 1990s. He's been covering politics the entire time. And yet, in a recent podcast, he didn't know basic facts about Hamas, which leads to some obvious questions. How can a political commentator be ignorant about Hamas? How is he covering world politics all these years without knowing what he was talking about? Was he simply reading what someone else had put on the teleprompter for him without understanding what he was reading? Is Tucker Carlson Ron Burgundy?
From the entire Channel 4 News team, I'm Veronica Corningstone.
And I'm Ron Burgundy. Go yourself, San Diego.
The context of the clips we're about to watch is that Tucker can't figure out how, if this is a war against Hamas, Christians are dying too.
The whole justification for all this, you just said it. These journalists get blown up. They were Hamas. Okay, end of conversation. No one can plausibly claim that a Christian family are in Hamas. Okay, so tell me, you can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim.
So, the justification for taking people out in Gaza is that they're part of Hamas. But if Hamas is an Islamic terrorist organization, there obviously won't be Christians in Hamas. And yet, approximately 45 Christians have been killed in Gaza since the war started. Those Christians weren't members of Hamas, so why are they dead? Seasoned political commentator Tucker Carlson still doesn't seem to understand the tactic of using human shields. Hamas has perfected the use of human shields. Keep in mind, when we're talking about human shields, we don't usually mean holding a kid in front of you and using him as a shield. We mean a group that kills a bunch of people and takes a bunch of hostages and then runs and plays hide and seek around schools, hospitals, churches, so that when their enemies retaliate, when their enemies hunt down the terrorists or come looking for their hostages, they end up killing non-combatants in the process. Hamas specializes in putting people in this position, a position where there's no good outcome. I'll explain it in even simpler terms for you Tucker fans who, like Tucker, don't understand how this leads to non-combatant deaths. Suppose your kid is in school and someone starts firing rockets at your kid's school. Suppose you also have rockets, and you can make the man stop firing rockets at your kid's school by firing your rockets at him. The problem is, the guy who's firing rockets at your kid's school is firing those rockets from his kid's school. What do? You just let him keep firing rockets at your kid's school? Or do you stop him by firing your rockets at him, but destroy his kid's school in the process? No matter what you decide to do, there are bad consequences. So, if a large terrorist group that controls a large territory decides to start a war, and this terrorist group has perfected the art of using human shields, guess what? A lot of non-combatants are going to die. To be clear, this is just the general principle. This doesn't mean you can't object to particular cases. You can always say, hey, we know you're up against a group that's trying to maximize civilian casualties, and this puts you in a nightmare situation, but you still should have been more careful and not fired in this case. That can be a totally legitimate criticism. But Tucker just can't figure out how any Christians died at all. So I'll just say that if Hamas hadn't started the war, and if Hamas didn't use human shields as their primary war tactic, those 45 Christians would be alive right now. Back to Tucker for an even more shocking display of complete ignorance.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda. So it can't also be true that Christians are a member of Al-Qaeda. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Tucker is again wondering if the justification for killing Hamas members is that they're jihadis, how are people who aren't members of Hamas getting killed? We've discussed that, But notice that Tucker said he's not sure that Hamas members are jihadis or Islamic extremists.
They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way.
Critics claim that Hamas members are jihadis or Islamic extremists.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim.
But Tucker isn't sure about that.
I don't know if that's true, by the way.
He thinks Hamas seems more like a political organization.
It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda. So it can't also be true that Christians are a member of Al-Qaeda. Sorry.
Yeah. So veteran political commentator Tucker Carlson is not only ignorant about Hamas, he's also ignorant about Islam. Islam is inherently political. It calls for the subjugation of the entire world under the leadership of an Islamic caliph. But we'll have to explain that to Tucker another time because I want to focus on Tucker's sneaking suspicion that Hamas isn't a group of jihadis or Islamic extremists.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way.
Let's start with the name. Hamas is an abbreviation for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, which means Islamic Resistance Movement. So, they literally put it in the name of their group. But you Tucker fans might object, come on, David, just because someone puts Islamic in the name of their group doesn't mean they're really Islamic. If Tucker says they don't sound like jihadis or Islamic extremists, to him, that's good enough for us. Okay, why don't we take a quick peek at their founding charter? The Covenant of the Islamic Resistance Movement, 18 August 1988. In the name of the most merciful Allah. And they begin with a long quotation from Surah 3 of the Quran. Ye, Muslims, are the best nation that hath been raised up unto mankind. Ye command that which is just, and ye forbid that which is unjust, and ye believe in Allah. And if they who have received the scriptures, Jews and Christians, had believed, it had surely been the better for them. There are believers among them, but the greater part of them are transgressors. Most Jews and Christians are transgressors. They shall not hurt you, unless with a slight hurt, and if they fight against you, they shall turn their backs to you, and they shall not be helped. They are smitten with vileness wheresoever they are found, unless they obtain security by entering into a treaty with Allah and a treaty with men. And they draw on themselves indignation from Allah, and they are afflicted with poverty. Poor Jews and Christians. This they suffer because they disbelieved the signs of Allah and slew the prophets unjustly. This because they were rebellious and transgressed. Surah Al-Imran, verses 109 to 111. Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. Lovely quote from the martyr Imam Hassan al-Banna of blessed memory. Imam Hassan al-Banna was the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood. More on the Muslim Brotherhood in a moment. Sounds pretty Islamic so far, but Tucker just isn't convinced. He knows Hamas better than they know themselves. But maybe we should let Hamas define their own movement. Oh, here we go. They did define their own movement. Definition of the movement. Ideological starting points. Article 1. The Islamic Resistance Movement. The movement's program is Islam. From Islam, it draws its ideas, ways of thinking, and understanding of the universe, life, and man. It resorts to Islam, for judgment in all its conduct, and it is inspired by it for guidance of its steps. Where does the Islamic resistance movement get its ideas? From Islam. The Islamic resistance movement's relation with the Muslim Brotherhood group. Article 2. The Islamic resistance movement is one of the wings of Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. Muslim Brotherhood movement is a universal organization which constitutes the largest Islamic movement in modern times. It is characterized by its deep understanding, accurate comprehension, and its complete embrace of all Islamic concepts of all aspects of life, culture, creed, politics, economics, education, society, justice, and judgment, the spreading of Islam, education, art, information, science of the occult, and conversion to Islam. And as a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas is striving not only for the extermination of Jews, but also for the return of the Islamic Caliphate. Don't take my word for it. Here's a Hamas leader.
لنتطلع إلى أمرين مهمين نحن قاب قوسين أو أدنى منهما. أولا هو تنظيف فلسطين من دنس اليهود واستئصالهم بإذن الله، وهو قاب قوسين أو أدنى. أما الأمر الثاني وهو إقامة الخلافة بعد أن تتعافى الأمة من سرطانها وهو اليهود بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى.
Does this sound like some sort of secular political movement?
I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization.
Structure and formation. Article 3. The basic structure of the Islamic resistance movement consists of Muslims who have given their allegiance to Allah, whom they truly worship. I have created the jinn and humans only for the purpose of worshiping, who know their duty towards themselves, their families, and country. In all that, they fear Allah and raise the banner of jihad in the face of the oppressors, so that they would rid the land and the people of their uncleanliness, vileness, and evils. They fear Allah and raise the banner of jihad. And what's the goal? The Islamic resistance movement aspires to the realization of Allah's promise, no matter how long that should take. The Prophet, Allah bless him and grant him salvation, has said, "The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews, when the Jew will hide behind stones and trees. The stones and trees will say, 'O Muslims, O Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.' Only the garkid tree, evidently a certain kind of tree, would not do that, because it is one of the trees of the Jews," related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Let's see if they're quoting Muhammad accurately. Sahih Muslim, the Messenger of Allah said, "The hour will not begin until the Muslims fight the Jews, and the Muslims will kill them, until a Jew hides behind a rock or a tree, and the rock or tree will say, 'O Muslim, O slave of Allah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him.' Except the garkid, a thorny tree, for it is one of the trees of the Jews."
Garkid ain't no snitch. He stands with his crew, shade in the heat when they're coming for you.
So, Hamas wants their enemies dead, but they also want themselves dead. The slogan of the Islamic resistance movement, Article 8, Allah is its target, the Prophet is its model, the Quran its constitution. Jihad is its path, and death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of its wishes. Notice, Hamas jihadis have pledged to fulfill Muhammad's prophecy that Muslims will exterminate Jews. Not just Zionists, Jews. But Hamas jihadis also say that death for the sake of Allah is the loftiest of their wishes. So, they want their enemies dead to fulfill Muhammad's prophecy, and they want themselves dead, because the greatest thing you can do in Islam is die while waging jihad. They want their enemies dead and themselves dead. This is a death cult. And yet, we have seasoned political commentators who've been discussing global politics for decades, suggesting that these guys may not be jihadis or Islamic extremists at all.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda.
Why is this a problem? Well, we've got political commentators who've been building up massive followings for years or even decades, spouting idiotic nonsense. And their followers trust them. This is dangerous. Hamas is a death cult. Egypt shares a border with Gaza. This is Egypt's border with Gaza. Egypt knows they're dealing with a death cult. Other Muslim nations know they're dealing with a death cult. Who still doesn't understand that Hamas is a death cult? Tucker Carlson, Tucker's fans, lots of Western governments, lots of Western journalists, educators, and entertainers. Imagine journalists and politicians thinking that Hamas jihadis are the good guys. Maybe they're not jihadis. Maybe they're just religiously pluralistic freedom fighters. When it comes to jihad, willful ignorance gets people killed. But not me, because I know the one place jihadis can never find me.
Garka ain't no snitch, he stands with his crew.